So, what's Tony Hale's, I'm assuming, childhood Clifford connection?
Yeah, I mean, Clifford was created 1963. I was born 1970. So like, I feel like Clifford was always around. Like I remember those Clifford books. My daughter, when she was young, we would read Clifford books. And so it's pretty surreal and great to be a part of this story. And also just to see Clifford, come to life through the CGI. It's pretty wild what they've done. Pretty awesome.
Tell us about your role. You play a bit of a sinister character in this film.
I play the evil guy. So it's really fun because I play kind of a tech guy he has this company called LifeGrow, and he kind of manipulates the natural for profit. And so, but his employees are just not doing a good job, and they've created like two-headed sheep and all this crazy stuff, and he's going crazy. And so he sees Clifford and he's like, wait a second, what's going on? And he wants that magic, but he doesn't know it's magic. And he wants to exploit Clifford. And I love playing the villain, or the quote villain. I'd say he's complicated and misunderstood. Yes. But I love playing him because I love that equation of that never works out. And so it's like, I love kind of showing that spiral and him spiraling out. That's really fun.
So did you like him as a character?
Oh yeah, always. Because you have to find something in these characters that you resonate with. Because like, for instance, he's very manipulative. And if I'm honest with myself, I've had moments in my life where I'm manipulative. So you have to find that common ground in order to play, hopefully, an authentic version of that person, or you'll just be playing kind of an idea of him.
I love it. What's the bigger story you think this particular film tells?
Yeah, I love that question because I think my character also kind of highlights it because mine's the contrast. But there's a scene in the movie where Emily, the girl, is holding Clifford as a little dog. And Clifford, they're both in very unique situations where they feel kind of like an outcast.
Yeah.
And Emily loves the dog, and it's the love that makes the dog grow. And I just feel like, man, in today's world, there's so much divisiveness. There's so much social media, like judgment and criticism. And the more that we can kind of celebrate the differences of others, the more that we can have empathy, the more that we can listen, the more we can cross the aisle and begin to have discussions and celebrate things. I think that is where growth is going to happen. And so that message of really taking that step to love and taking that step to accept, that is where change is going to happen. And obviously this is like children's programming, but it's a program that I think a lot of adults need to check into, because I think it's a creative way of saying this message obviously is talked about a lot, but that's the beauty of art, is you can tell that message in a very unique way. And Clifford is its own, like, he's a very unique situation, and that message is really powerful.
Indeed. Talking about being the outsider or awkward or different, has that ever been your experience personally?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was an artistic kid raised in the South. So like down South, football is pretty much a religion, and I did not do sports. And so I just kind of, my parents didn't really know what to do with me. So they found this theater by the grace of God, and they signed me up for this theater. And I really kind of found my people there. But I always kind of felt different, and I dealt with anxiety a lot. I dealt with a lot of anxiety. And so I think just kind of, but the cool thing is having gone through that, it's interesting, having dealt with that stuff, it does change you as an adult. And I do play anxious characters. A lot of my characters are kind of anxious. And so because of what I went through, I can kind of maybe show that in a different light because I experienced it, so it's neat to see how stuff you went through can be used, for storytelling and for good, hopefully.
Did your faith help you navigate that as well?
It did. I mean, my faith is very important to me, and it's everything to me. And so I think later in life is where it became more a part of my life. But I think in life, I think people can kind of look at faith as a crutch, and life is hard. Give me two crutches. It's tough. It's tough to walk. It's tough to walk through this life. I don't want to do it alone. And so I'm very thankful that he was with me through all that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Paint a picture for me of what it's like on the set as the CGI work is being done for you guys. What are you playing up against? What's happening? How does this work?
Yeah, totally. It's both unique and it's very exciting, because the gift that we were given as actors is typically with CGI, there's like a tennis ball and it's like, okay, so there's a monster here and you got to but what the gift that they gave to us was there were these large red puppets that these puppeteers would manipulate. And what that helped us with is it allowed us to see the scope of Clifford. So that in terms of our eye line, in terms of our reactions, we were really able to connect a little more with the presence of Clifford. So that was really great. But what's exciting about doing these kind of movies is typically when you're doing a movie or a TV show, it's going to be different when you see the final product, but you have an idea of like, yeah, we're all going to look like this and the set's going to look like this. But when you're doing something like this, you have no idea what's going to turn out. You have no idea. And so I did Alvin and the Chipmunks years ago too. And, I'm doing it and it's all right. So these chipmunks are walking up your arm and you're like, all right, so you do it. But then you see these chipmunks go up your arm in the final product, or you see Clifford, this large red dog running through the streets of New York. There's this scene at the end of the movie where he's chasing through traffic, and
yes,
it's crazy. These special effects people, I am blown away by them. They're so incredibly gifted, and it's really eye candy. It's beautiful.
Was there a clincher or something that cinched it for you that made you say yes to this project?
It's a gig. No, it's I mean, having been a fan of Clifford for a long time and growing up with Clifford, obviously was really nostalgic for me. But I did love what because the beautiful thing about Clifford is, even the books as a kid, it's where the abnormal meets the normal. And so there's this large red dog in the midst of this town that's deemed normal, and everybody just kind of accepts that uniqueness. And that's what I remember about those stories. And so to see it come to life, and also this is a bit of an origin story. You kind of see how Clifford came to be how he did, and so that's really special. So it was really, and I'd worked with Walt before, the director.
I love it, especially when we now know that love was at the heart of why he got so big.
Totally. It's really special.
Indeed. We've gone through a really rough patch, and I know Clifford's release was delayed a few times. How are you feeling now on this side of it?
I think it's when it's supposed to come out, honestly. Like just because kind of what I was discussing before, after having been through kind of a crazy season and everybody has really struggled and it's been a tough time, moments like this where, this movie is about big love. Like it's about, hey, let's start we've all been isolated. And I think in these times, our priorities have gotten very simple. All the noise has been taken away, and you really see the priority of love. And this is literally a big red loving dog. And it's also family entertainment. My daughter's a teenager now, but when she was younger, it's tough to find things that the adults enjoy and the kids enjoy. So to be able to go to the theater and have that experience and the message, I think it's actually really good timing for it.
I love it. I want to ask you what's next, but I'm thinking, is it Being the Ricardos? Is that what's coming up for you?
Yeah, Being the Ricardos. We shot that in the spring and it's come out in the fall. And I was a huge I Love Lucy fan.
Me too.
So, oh my gosh. I loved I Love Lucy. And so this is a drama about the making of I Love Lucy, and Nicole Kidman plays Lucille Ball, and Javier Bardem plays Desi. And man, having been a fan of the show, and then being on the set where they completely recreated the set.
Wow.
And the production design, and then watching Nicole Kidman transform into Lucille and Javier into Desi. And I play a character named Jess Oppenheimer, who he had a very long relationship with Lucille Ball. They were working business partners. He did a show with her called My Favorite Husband before I Love Lucy. And just to see the behind the scenes of the table reads and the drama, and Aaron Sorkin is directing it, I was just kind of like, man, how did I get here? You know, so it's really exciting. I'm excited for people to see it.
I'm excited to see it as well. Thank you so much. A pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, man. Nice meeting you. And I love your house.